Kufiya, what are you asking? What's up, beautiful people? Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to the GBA podcast. So, this is a platform where guilty by association meets pretty gritty. Oh my gosh, I'm all over the place. Meets gritty, blissful ambiguity. I'm your host, Nesrain, and I'm absolutely excited today. As you guys know, I have another interesting guest. Otherwise, I would hardly not be here. But anywho, let's get right into it. Shout outs coming at the end. I have Salahuddin Al Ayubi, and this is not a joke. This is his. Is this your real name, or is this actually a joke?
Uh,
I forgot to
Not
ask.
entirely. Yeah, my name is Salahuddin, but not Al-Ayyubi. Anyway,
All
yeah, but
right,
yeah, my name is
but
Salahuddin.
yes, Salahuddin. He is a Palestinian poet, and he is also a tour guide in the West Bank. So
Yeah,
welcome
that's
to
right.
the platform. Thank you for being here with me today. You can see I'm crazy, I'm all over the place, but let me just warm up. So would you like to tell a little bit to the audience who you are? I just only said you're a poet. Like maybe you can tell us what
So
got you to poetry, for example.
yeah, so basically, I'm Palestinian. I was born in Palestine. I lived my entire life in Palestine. I am a third generation refugee. I come from a village called Zakaria, which is a village that was occupied in 1948. And my family was kicked out of their village in 1948, just like the majority of the Palestinians at that time, in what we know as the Nakba. And Nakba is an Arabic word for the English term catastrophe, which is what we refer to the establishment of the state of Israel, because it was never a peaceful process to happen. I'm connected to poetry. I'm connected to the politics. I'm connected to the art, and I'm connected to many things that simply are representative of the Palestinian situation. I wrote poetry for a long time, and I did a lot of public readings. But yeah, simply I'm focusing right now on the advocacy and lobbying for Palestine. I do that not as a job, but um, as a duty. I don't get paid for that
Exactly.
whatsoever. I just do it because it's the right thing to do.
And I just want to say, contrary popular belief to the other side, nobody actually, from what I know, on the pro-Palestinian side gets paid. But I actually don't want to make this a topic. You said something very interesting, and you said that you were a refugee. And I want to start because why I actually find you extremely interesting is because, mashallah, you have such a great knowledge and you have so much background knowledge and also historical knowledge. And I just want to, for other people who really hardly heard anything about Palestine, I want to get into it. And I want to ask you, because you're very well versed in culture, how you said poetry, art, and everything. But talk to me about the Kufiya. Why is the Kufiya so important? What does it mean, and what does it stand for all the people who don't know?
Okay, the Kufiya is originally one of two main Palestinian head covers for men. The two main head covers, one was the tarbush, which is the red hat with a black tail that goes either on the side or on the back of the head. And this was the head cover of city people in Palestine. And then we have the white scarf, the white head cover scarf, like plainly white, that used to come on the heads of the Palestinian farmers and the Palestinian countryside and Bedouins. Now, in 1930s, there was the Great Palestinian Revolution between 1936 until 1939, where most of the Palestinian rebels against the British mandate used to come from the countryside. Therefore, it was very easy for the Brits to recognize them because the Brits are stationed in cities, and the Palestinians are the rebels are coming from the villages. So it was very easy to recognize any rebel the moment they see the head cover. Therefore, the general leadership of the Palestinian Revolution at that time asked everybody to simply put their head cover or change their head cover to the scarf in order to disguise the Palestinian rebels and Palestinian fighters that are coming from the countryside. And that's when the Palestinians in general stopped wearing the hat, the tarbush, which is, as I said earlier, was the Palestinian traditional head cover for city men, and they started wearing the kufiya. Now, with the time, the Palestinians started decorating the kufiya more with colors, with red and black. And the reason red and black were chosen is that, as I remember well, when Mohammed Jamjoom, Fuad Hijazi, and Ata Zir were simply three Palestinian protesters were unalived by the British government at that time, by the British
Mandate.
personnel's mandate. They were killed. They were hung in public. Simply the Palestinians were split into two parts. One part was asking for revenge, and the other one was mourning. So those who were mourning, they started wearing black and white kufiyas, like two scarves instead of one. And those who were asking for revenge, they started wrapping themselves with red and white. And with time, these two scarves merged into one. And instead of having two scarves, they basically had one with the red color on and the white color on, or the black color and the white color. Later on, the kufiya started representing the rebellion against the occupation. That's why the
Who said that?
kufiyas.
Who determined that? That from now on, this is a rebellious sign, or did it just gradually people start saying that altogether? Like, is there a
I think
person?
it's the general awareness of the situation. The general
Okay.
people, public of Palestine started recognizing this as a sign of rebellion. Because I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the rebels masking their face with these scars, then
Mm-hmm.
automatically these scars become the sign of
I
rebellion.
see. Yeah.
And that's why when people in day by day life would carry these scarves and walk around around their shoulders or something like that, they are praising the rebellions and the Muntafidin, the people that would protest.
Yeah, the against, yeah, the resistance, so to speak. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So can you explain a little bit what all of these things are on the kufiya? Like,
Oh, of course,
what's that
of
mean?
course.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the kufiya, you can see the main or the biggest part of it. It looks like a fence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, some people explain it as if it was a representation of the Palestinian Sea and the coast,
Yeah.
where you could see it looks like a fishing net.
Yeah.
And some people would claim that this is the representation of the occupation because it looks like a fence. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
since it's a fence on top of a white, the white is the original, the origin, the Palestinians, the
Mm-hmm.
Palestine, and the red or the black is on top, then it's the rebellion of the white against the fence, the black or the red fence. And other people would simply say it's just a decoration. Then on the sides around it, you can see between the straps, you can see the olive leaves. And the olive leaves are a representation of Palestine because, Palestine has the oldest olive tree in the world. So olives are one of the major symbols of Palestine, and that's why it's very
Yes.
important to simply remember how do Palestinians are connected, how Palestinians are connected to the land through the olive
Yes.
trees.
So then my question is, when we look, there is yellow and white kufiya, there's blue and white kufiya. Would you say this is cultural appropriation? Because it kind of is like more a fashion than anything then, right? Or am
Okay.
I?
It started like that. Yes, it started as cultural appropriation. You could see, by the way, the origin behind these colorful kufiyas is China. All right. And just to bring more market into this, they started producing the colorful kufiyas. But when the Palestinians who produced the kufiyas saw that a lot of people likes them, they
Mm,
started also producing them. There are colored kufiyas that are produced in Palestine to match up
with the international
with the
market,
people's
yeah.
taste. Yeah, with the people's taste, and also to not fall under the wheels of the China machine. And that's why simply the Palestinian Kufiya factories started also producing the colorful ones. I believe that the colorful kufiyas have also helped to the spread of the Palestinian,
Mhm.
the
Awareness.
pro-Palestine narrative and the pro-Palestine media machine, simply
Mm.
because people liked them in the first place, and that's why simply they started wearing them, and then with time they started understanding where they come from and what is the origin behind it.
Okay, and talk to me about, because I saw there is actually only one factory left in Khalil in Hebron. For those who don't know the name for Hebron, the Arabic name, the real name is Khalil. There
Yeah,
is just one more left, right?
there is one major factory that is left in Hebron, and but also some workshops
Uh-huh.
try to simply benefit from that. So they basically local workshops. They would buy rolls and they would cut them and they would sell them. Basically, they would buy them from the main factory. They would cut them and add to them the decoration around it, and they would sell them.
Oh, let me ask you this. This is like really personal interest because I'm curious. It's just nothing to do with the topic, but I'm really curious about this. Is this business wise still feasible to produce the coffees in Palestine? Because China, and I know that I believe, I don't want to say nothing wrong, but I believe I saw India or Bangladesh are producing them as well. Can
India.
Palestine even compete?
Um, okay. If you want to talk about business in Palestine, no business in Palestine is feasible. All right.
Mm.
People do it because of their belief that this is their duty to do. Do they make money? Yes, of course they make money. But if we want to compete over price, we will not be able to. People like those are feasible just because people are happy to buy the original kafiyas. If we want to talk about the idea that people would want to choose what is cheaper, and they wouldn't want to support the local economy, we will not be able to compete.
Okay, I know that it's possible for the people who live international, like in the diaspora, they can order from Palestine, right?
Yes, they can.
Maybe Salah, you'd be so nice and get me a link later so I can edit in the show notes when we publish this episode, so people then can support really Palestinian businesses, which is very, very important, especially in this time.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
All right. So now you also said that you are a refugee, right? And
Yes,
your parents and your parents or your grandparents were chased out in
my
Nakba.
grandparents,
Your
my grandparents.
grandparents. Um, One thing that really gets me emotional all the time, I have to be very careful, is when people still have the key. The key also became a very important, how do I say, an important,
Symbol.
yes, that's it. That's the word I was looking for
Yeah.
Palestine. When you see all of this as a refugee, and because I see this with my Palestinian friends all over the diaspora. Some of them are at the point where they feel I cannot even talk about it no more because they kind of like gave up. And not that they gave up in the thing, but they gave up in believing that the world is doing something. How do you feel as a refugee? You were born into it, basically. It just
Um,
didn't happen to you. Didn't move. Your parents didn't move on their own free will. You were forced from grandparents, so you're the third generation.
yeah. I'm mean, I'll tell you something. There was an Israeli leader saying that, I think his name was Moshe Dayan. He was saying that um, الكبار يموتون والصغار ينسون. The elders will forget, the dies, and the youngers will forget.
Yes.
This didn't work. This for Israel didn't work because they were betting on the idea that, okay, Palestinian youth are going to be disconnected from the history and from the reality. They won't be able to keep their hopes and belief in this. Now, if you look at the Palestinian community in general, you will see that the Palestinians are never forgetting
No.
or given up on their history in
No.
on this battle.
No.
Therefore, on the contrary, I am full of hope for Palestine to be free. I know for a fact it's going to be free. It's
Okay.
just a matter of time. But what is really important to know is that our resistance and our fight for freedom is not for those who have a short breath. Like those who have a short breath should step aside and sit on the woke side.
No, I agree with
The
you, but
the fight that we have,
the
yeah,
reason why I say this is more because of censorship. I have Palestinian friends who are really fired, who are really dealt with in a very disrespectful way. I don't want to get into it right now, but in a diaspora, Palestinians who speak up don't always have it easy, and then it becomes an internal battle with yourself.
yeah, I know it's like that. But it's freedom, and the only free part of freedom is the word free, nothing
Mm,
else. I mean,
exactly.
if you wanna compare what we gave as Palestinians to what other nations gave, we still are like we're still at the beginning. I mean, look at
Yes.
Algeria, look at Poland, look at
Yes.
South Africa, look at like all of these nations had to give millions of people of their nations, of their nation people, nationals, in order to be free. We are still in our fight. We are not accepting to go in silence.
Exactly.
And the like whatever is happening right now, despite how disgusting it is, it's accepted. It's expected from the occupation.
Okay, so you are normally our tour guide in the West Bank. What is the most important thing that you show people when they
Yeah.
come, and who are your clients, so to speak?
Okay. I have clients from all around the world. I get my clients from Europe, from US, from Canada, from several Asian countries.
Wow.
I toured thousands of people. I do individual and small groups.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do big buses. I lead the cultural alternative tours of Palestine,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been given the people and showing the people the actual life in Palestine, so they would see life in Palestine in like through a Palestinian eye. They would see the apartheid, they would see the walls, they would see the occupation, they would see the checkpoints, they would see the settlements, they would see the oppression, they would see the segregation, they would see the separate roads, they would see all of that. I mean, I don't hide anything from them. I don't get away from any questions. I talk about Israeli occupation and Palestinian official corruption. I lay it all on the table simply.
How dangerous is that for you? Because of the checkpoints, because of
Um,
the settlers, because you
I
speak
mean,
the truth.
let's put it this way. Today in Israeli on Israeli checkpoints, if they catch a Telegram account with you, a Telegram app on your phone, you get arrested.
I know that. Yeah.
Just the mere fact of having a telegram,
Yeah.
of having the will to reach information that is not allowed for you to reach. Um, it could vary from being beaten up on checkpoints to being arrested to
Did you ever,
being quote unquote by mistake.
did you
Sorry again.
ever, did you ever encountered something like this?
Yeah, I rather not to go into details, but yeah, I was subjected to different acts of oppression by the Israeli occupation directly.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I want you to speak on the danger that this occupation poses to women and children. Also in the West Bank, we can see in Gaza what's happening. We can also see some of the West Bank, but I want you to talk to us about the danger it poses on the people, on the women and children in particular.
Okay, I'll tell you this.
Mm,
Um, Thousands of children today are wetting their beds because of the fear of Israeli invadings and attacks on Palestinian houses and Palestinian neighborhoods.
mm,
Um, we're talking about like every uh, 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 10 children at least was directly encountered with occupation, whether by arrest or kidnapping or beaten up or something like that. We have a lot of oppression subjected on imposed on Palestinian women. If a woman has an active family member, she's uh, uh, she's systematically being subjected to threats of being raped, threats of being attacked, threats of being arrested or beaten up. Lately, even like Mona Khater is a Palestinian journalist. She was kidnapped from her house in the West Bank um, a couple of months ago, and they threatened her to be raped. They threatened her to be tortured. They threatened her to send her children to deport her children to Gaza and burn them alive to death in Gaza. We're talking about direct threats that are carried on women and children for their daily, day by day life, normal practices of simply talking about the occupation and trying to expose this occupation. She's just a journalist, basically.
talk to me about the schools and the universities, please. Because when kids
Um,
go to school, they also have to pass checkpoints, right?
yes, a lot of the children has to pass checkpoints to go to schools. Not only that, a lot of the schools get raided directly by Israeli occupation soldiers. I think last year, 2023, there was a child, a 7-year-old child, who was chased inside his school by Israeli IDF soldiers, ITF, the Israeli terrorist occupation soldiers. They chased him, and he had a heart attack. A 7-year-old child had a heart attack from that, and he passed away because of his fear. He died out of fear, and that was in the West Bank. It wasn't in Gaza. It was in the West Bank. It was in a village called Taqwa, Taqwa village in near Bethlehem, to the east of Bethlehem. So this is one of hundreds, if not thousands, of examples of direct oppression on Palestinian children and students. Palestinian university students get kidnapped and arrested for their speaking out, for their student activities, for their political student activities, for their calling of the end of the occupation, and so on. Even it goes even worse because simply even when they're active against the corrupted system in the West Bank, and the system cannot deal with them directly, they would they would call out on them the Israeli occupation soldiers, and they would trap them in the way. They would chase them in cars. They would shoot at them. They would kidnap them, uh, in order to silence them.
I know, look, this is not my next question. I mean, most of the questions are not for me because I'm very familiar with everything already. But I mean, I'm still also learning. You can never finish learning, you know. But there is a lot of people who really don't know. Can you explain to the audience who don't know what's the procedure at a checkpoint? So a little child who wakes up in the morning and goes to school, or someone who goes to work, or anybody basically, what's happening at a checkpoint? How does it work?
Okay, it depends. It depends because first of all, checkpoints are different types, and also it depends on the soldiers' mood that day. For example, there are checkpoints that are called the flying checkpoints, and flying
Mhm.
checkpoints are just temporary checkpoints, and all of the sudden you walk in the street and all of a sudden you see an Israeli military car stopping on the side of the road and putting some barriers in the street and checking people out. And other checkpoints are permanent checkpoints that basically stopping people when they are going into Jerusalem, for instance, from the West Bank, from the rest of the West Bank. Some
Mm.
other checkpoints are checkpoints only for cars, and other checkpoints only for public transportation. We have more than 539 checkpoints across the West Bank, and all of these checkpoints are simply dealing and treating the Palestinians differently from one to another. Therefore, when we're talking about the treatment on the checkpoints, it depends on what kind of a checkpoint is that, and where it is, and how is the mood of the soldier that day. But it would vary from nothing at all, no talk, they just pass by and they will not even check you, to the moment that you could be stopped, your car could be searched for hours. You could get a stripped check in the street, in the middle of the street. You could be tortured, and you could be even shot and killed on the street, on these checkpoints. And we have hundreds of Palestinians who got killed and shot on these checkpoints in the streets.
Yeah, this is very heavy. It's very, very heavy. Um, and you know, earlier we talked about women and how the occupation affects them in this extreme way. But I also find the fact that when women, most of the time in the West Bank, from what I've learned, is that most of the shopping, most of the work is done by the husband, right? By the man. If there is a man in the family, a son, a husband, whatever, right?
It depends. Some families like that, some families are not.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's what I'm trying to ask you is how free are women? And I'm not talking just like, obviously nobody's free in Palestine. You know, that's we're gonna start with this. But how free are women to actually move without having to be strip searched at the checkpoints, without having to be facing sexual assault? Like, is this something that you have to expect at every minute? So every time you go out, you have to be 100% scared, and
Um,
you only go out if you have to.
okay, now let's be clear. Checkpoints are not inside the cities. Checkpoints are between cities.
Mhm,
Between cities and villages. They're not within the city most of the time.
mhm,
When they are within the city, they are way more dangerous. Like the checkpoints in the heart of Hebron, for instance, or the
mhm.
checkpoints in the heart of Jerusalem.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are checkpoints that are right in the middle between people's houses.
Yeah.
It divides neighborhoods from each other. And the level of torture and oppression on them is very, very high. But when we're talking about checkpoints that are between the cities, um, they are basically, you will be passing them from going back to work or from work and stuff like
Mm,
that.
mm,
Now, when people go to do shopping and all of that, they most likely wouldn't interact with checkpoints. They most likely
okay.
would go to a shop nearby. However, when we are talking about the amount of oppression Palestinian women has on checkpoints, sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less than the amount of oppression a male would have. They would take a lot of pleasure into strip searching women on checkpoints, especially if the woman has a head cover or a face cover like a burqa or something like that. They would actually enjoy traumatizing these women, Palestinian religious women,
Mm,
and this happens a lot in the old city of Jerusalem, in the old city of Hebron. The rest of the checkpoints, usually it's much easier for both men and women, but
mm.
still, usually they would ask a female soldier to strip search
Okay.
the Palestinian women,
Mhm,
but not only. In
mhm,
many cases, we have documentation and witnesses of Palestinian women, female kidnappees and hostages that were released afterwards. And they said that this has happened not only in the presence of female soldiers, but also in the presence of male soldiers.
I mean, obviously, not everybody reports a sexual assault, but do we have numbers? Because we do have a number when it comes to Israeli female soldiers being also sexually assaulted and raped by the ITF male participants. And I think it was 1,542 in the past year or something, right? But do we
Yeah.
have a statistic for Palestinian women or nobody cares?
Um, I don't think we have statistics for
No.
Palestinian women for two reasons. First of all, unfortunately, in Palestine, is still not very tolerant of women being sexually assaulted and all of that, and that's why a lot of the women would be shy to talk about it. Not that the woman would be attacked or something for it, but she will feel ashamed of it. And
Exactly.
this is very important to talk about, because Palestinian women rather not to talk about it than to talk about it. But when this happens, also in many cases, Palestinians in general rejects to talk or refuses to talk about such a thing in the meantime, in the current time, because we do not want to give the Israelis the possibility of militarizing this. How is that? Simply because Palestinian communities holds the woman very in a very high place. They basically have a weak spot for Palestinian women. Therefore, when women gets targeted within the war, they would reject talking about it, because they don't want their men to be afraid on them, for them. They don't want the men to be afraid for them, and that's why they would refuse to talk about it until everything is over. So
Yeah.
probably we will have statistics about this after all of this is over, and
Yeah.
I hope it's soon. But uh, meanwhile, we will not have
Okay.
these numbers. And the reason Palestinian people have that in their general understanding is that we have experience with Israel weaponizing sexual assault and rape on Palestinian women and children in the past. And that's, for example, that's what they did in Deir Yassin massacre. In Deir Yassin massacre, they did rape and kill a lot of children and civilians, but they magnified it. They made it look much bigger than what it is, and that's why if Palestinians start talking about this, they would go instead of denying it, they would go towards magnifying it and making it look much bigger
Yeah,
to
yeah.
create a lot of panic and fear amongst the Palestinians, so it would push the Palestinians out. And that's what happened in 1948.
All right. Talk to me about, let's switch lanes a little bit. Talk to me about the walk of return. Can you explain what it is in a couple sentences?
The Palestinian March of Return.
Yes. I'm sorry, a march of return. I call it walk of return. Oh my gosh.
The Palestinian March of Return is a yearly march where Palestinians actually symbolically try to return to their villages and cities and towns that were kicked out from in 1948 to 1967. It happened from the surrounding countries of Palestine, like Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, towards like walking towards the borders with Palestine, with occupied Palestine. And it is simply calling for the application of the international law, 194 and 242 and all of these laws and resolutions, UN resolutions, calling and giving the Palestinians the right to return to their villages and cities and houses. That's what the March of Return is. It's simply calling for the application of the international resolutions, the UN resolutions. But because Israel does not want the Palestinians to look civil in their protests and all of that, they start targeting these people. And they did target people in Syria coming to Palestine. They did target people on the Jordanian side coming to Palestine. They did target people in Gaza coming towards the fence that is besieging Gaza. And this March of Return is going to continue happening. It's not something that happened and it's over. It is something that happened and is still happening and will keep happening until the right return is applied. Just 1 second, I'll be with you in a moment. I need to turn on the light.
Mhm. Okay, so guys, this is very heavy information. I started in a very light way, actually, because what he's talking about is still not nothing. We didn't really unpack history. We didn't really unpack the whys and hows. I just want to, have a kind of a basically startup conversation about this topic before we bring Salah back, inshallah. I hope
I'm with you.
Hi. No, no, no. I was saying I want to definitely bring you back for another episode or so, because I feel we haven't unpacked the heavy stuff yet. I'm trying to be very basic because I want the people who don't know, because we do have a lot of people who know what's going on, but they don't have no real experience that they can talk to, except obviously they have testimony from the ground. We see the videos, we see the pictures, what's going on in Gaza, and we see some of the West Bank, but I want them to hear it from someone who actually lived it and who can explain it in the right way. Before we end this episode, though, I need you to answer some cultural questions, because I want people to not only look at Palestine as a place of torture. Palestine has a very rich culture and has also a lot to offer. So can you tell people, can you suggest a Palestinian writer, a Palestinian author that has books also translated in English that people can go and look for?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would definitely recommend Ghassan Kanafani, one of the greatest Palestinian.
Say that again, slow, for the people to write it down, guys.
Ghassan Kanafani, Ghassan, and then Kanafani, Knafani, Kanafani.
Okay,
this is one of the greatest Palestinian writers. He passed away in the 70s, I believe. He was assassinated by the Israeli occupation soldiers. I would say, the greatest Palestinian novelist ever. He wrote a lot of books about Palestine. He wrote Returning to Haifa. He wrote Men in the Sun. He wrote about Zionism. He wrote a lot of books. Okay,
Mhm.
so he's a great some like person to read for. You can read also for Edward Said. Edward Said is one of the greatest Palestinian philosophers. You can read for him. You can read poetry for Samih Al-Qasim and Mahmoud Darwish. Both of them have translated books. You can read for, or you can watch or search the cartoons of Najil Ali, a great Palestinian cartoonist who created the very great and famous symbol Hamdallah for Palestine that represents Palestine and Palestinians. This was his signature. He made more than 40,000 cartoon artworks prior to his death. And he was also assassinated because of his art. He was assassinated in London, for those who don't know. But he was shot by the Israeli Mossad, 7 bullets in his face. He's buried in London as well. We have
Mhm.
a lot of Palestinian writers and Palestinian musicians. Like the most or like my favorite Palestinian music goes back to the family of Trio Jubran. It's like three brothers that are playing oud. You can just type Trio Jubran on YouTube and you'll find them. You can find them on their website. They're an international music band, originally from Nazareth, and they play worldwide. Um, and you
Nice.
can watch Dabka.
Oh yeah.
Uh, the
Dabka.
Palestinian Dabka is very famous, and it's very deeply rooted in the Palestinian history. You know, Dabka. It's very interesting, but Dabka at the beginning was not a dance. It was a method to strengthen the Palestinian houses' roofs. You know, in the past, the roofs were made out of mud. So to make the mud very strong and steady, people would go and jump on it in groups to make it very strong, and that's how Dabka started as a dance to make the roof very strong, and then because of that, it turned into a dance, and it turned into a rhythm dance, and that's how Dabka came to be. And now it's one of the most iconic symbols of Palestine.
I love that. And, to make it into a dance, to turn it into a
Yeah,
dance, obviously makes it more fun to jump on
yeah,
the roofs. Wow. Yeah, yeah, I know. Palestinians are very creative. I mean, everybody who is under oppression in this world has to be very creative
yeah.
with how to, survive, so to speak. Salah, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for sharing all of these very interesting facts about Palestine. And I definitely want to bring you back for a more deeper conversation about the history, about the occupation and everything else, if that's okay with you.
My pleasure, sis.
All right, then. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you took some notes. Go check out the authors, and we will have a link to order the kufiyas, and we will also have the names of the authors in the show notes. And yeah, just gather your questions. If you have any questions when we bring Salah back soon, so I can ask him. So with that
Yeah, I
said,
actually
yeah.
have 4 kufiyas ordered to Europe. If you want, I can add more to your followers.
Oh,
So if
wait, we can order them through you?
yeah, yeah, you can.
Ooh,
If you, but
okay.
I do it when I have a bunch, you know, because
Yes,
if
yes,
I
yes,
want to
yes,
ship
yes.
it, I don't want people to pay tons of money just for that, you know, just for
Exactly.
shipment. Therefore, if there are people interested, I have 3 or 4 people already interested, and I can have if I have like 5 or 6 more people interested, then
It
I
makes
will.
sense. I love it. I love it. That's
No
amazing.
problem.
So Thank you so much. And you guys have a blessed day. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode.